it wouldn't be opening night if there weren't a few hiccups, I guess you could say, technically or setup-wise or anything of that sort. But we're scheduled to go live at 8 Eastern. It's a minute or two late, but hopefully it's worth waiting for. Hi, everybody. I'm Ryan Briggs. A lot of you know me. Some of you don't. I'll give you a quick bio sketch here in a moment, just for, I guess, a refresher or to let everybody know. But thanks for tuning in tonight. One of the things that people ask is, when I announced earlier today that I was going to do it, is why. And I'll kind of fill you in as to why and what we're doing here, what the, kind of what the plan is, if you will. My background is as a writer and in radio/audio, online audio, commentating, behind the scenes, editing, producing, play-by-play, all of those things. I have done some video, certainly the last few years here in Mercer County, primarily with Sports Radio 96.7 and 790 WPIC. That we've added a lot of our video to our broadcasts, so people are able to watch on Facebook or like tonight here on YouTube. So anyway, video's here to stay. And again, my background is as a writer. I have a website, professorbriggs.com. I've done a lot of writing for that. Of course, I wrote for the Herald in my day job, do a lot of writing as well in collegiate sports information. And writing is important. Audio, commentary is important. But people like video. They consume things. Kind of part of the genesis of this was looking back at this, the recently completed academic year, 2025-2026, with this being June 29th. We kind of flipped the calendar to next year starting on July 1st. So we're kind of at the finish line, if you will. And I could type out a list, and maybe people would read it, or they would maybe read through the first few, and they've had enough. For the most part, attention spans aren't as long as they used to be, for better or worse. It's just how society evolves, society changes. So I thought maybe to try something different. Maybe this becomes something that's weekly or monthly or bi-weekly. Maybe this is a one-off, and it turns out that it's not very good, and we say, hey, nice try, and try something else. So all of those are things that are under consideration. Like I said, hopefully have a longer run than the 1969 show Turn On, which was pulled by ABC during the middle of the show, or even the Paula Poundstone show, which I think got 2 weeks from ABC. So we're not with ABC, so a chance to maybe last a little bit longer. But anyway, again, I've covered Mercer County sports and District 10 and other areas too, secondarily, for over a quarter century now. Started really back in high school. As I said, I covered basketball a lot better than I played it. I played a little basketball when I was younger and didn't play it well, but got involved doing announcing, working for the local paper, etc. And then in college, doing more and more. And really over about the last 18 to 20 years, I've been doing a lot with the local radio stations. And it's been a lot of fun covering our local teams, discussing them, following them, getting them. Just really, it's been a lot of fun. A lot of great teams, great players. Gotten to meet a lot of great people through it. So it's been certainly a worthwhile endeavor. Now, the genesis, again, with this, the thought behind it is wanted to try and do something different. And the idea for this, I will freely admit this kind of setup here. It's kind of a crude setup, if you will. I won't say crude, but it is simple. It is a simple setup, and with that, it's one-man show. I had to make an adjustment on the computer, but the idea for this and kind of this setup, it came from a guy many of you may have heard of, Mike Francesa, who's a legend in New York sports talk. He and Christopher Russo had a long show on a show for a long time on WFAN radio, and now he does kind of sometimes daily, sometimes every other day or weekly. A setup like this. He has a backdrop behind him, has a sponsor for it and everything, and he'll talk about the topics of the day, primarily New York sports. In the fall on Fridays, we'll talk professional football, things like that. But what it's like, I kind of watched that and thought, well, maybe I could do something like that. Obviously, he has thousands and thousands and thousands of followers and a much wider scope than what we have here. But that's kind of where this came into play. So set up like that. Again, something we could perhaps, if this takes off and becomes something, we could go on the road. We could do it remotely. We could have guests. We could do a lot. It's a clean slate, a clean canvas, if you will, and that's what's very exciting about it. One of the things, again, the main thing tonight is kind of looking back at 2025, 2026, this year that is wrapping up here. The schools, and anybody that works in education, or even some businesses as well, run July to June. So we're kind of putting the final finishing touches, bringing down the curtain on one year and getting ready for the next year. And I thought, well, what can I look back at? Because there have been a lot of good things happen, certainly, in 2025, 26 on the local scene. State championships with West Middlesex girls golf, individual state champions in track and field, many other great team successes, individual successes across the board. A lot of those have been chronicled very well by Bob Greenberg, by Tom Reisenweber, by the Herald, by Youngstown Television, by other media outlets that cover the area and District 10 at large. So rehashing that, I mean, it would be okay. It's like, tell us something we don't know. And then, so I thought about maybe tailoring a little bit more, kind of making it a little bit somewhat personal in looking at events and games that actually I covered in 2025, 2026. Starting in football season back in late August, going all the way through into the mid-June with the Sharon softball team going to Penn State in the state championship game and finishing as the state runners-up in Class 3A. I thought kind of going through those, I could sort of maybe just speak to some of these games a little bit more, and then just look back. They were games that stood out for good reasons. Sometimes there are broadcasts or games that stand out for negative reasons, and that's whether it's a technology issue, terrible weather, a completely one-sided game, things of that sort. I mean, those are memorable, but those aren't things you want to bring up again. What I have listed here, it's 10 subjects, if you will, but but there'll be more than 10 to it. I'll go in chronological order with it, because to try and discern what's number 6, what's number 8, that's really not fair. It's not the objective. These are all very memorable. And again, the key is they were games that I was fortunate enough to be there to cover, to commentate as the play-by-play guy for those games. Thus, there'll be a number of games that were very memorable in Mercer County in 2025-26 that would not be on this list. For example, the trilogy of Kennedy Catholic Wilmington girls basketball games. 3 great games. Of course, the District 10 championship game won by Wilmington. Wilmington girls winning their first D10 title in girls basketball. I wasn't there, so that's not on the list. Great game, certainly. The Hickory-Sharon football games back in the fall. The regular season game won by Hickory, and then the championship game won by Sharon, a reverse of the last couple of years in that great series between the teams. Again, I was not on the call for those games, so they're not on the list, same as with Hickory-Farrell last year in football season in week 1. That game's not on the list because I was across town at the Sharon-Mercyhurst prep game, which, while it's always fun to be at Tiger Stadium, that game did not make the list. But the games that did make the list, we're going to start off. It's in September, and nothing better than a good rivalry. And we have a lot of great rivalries in Mercer County. We noted Sharon-Hickory, which will come up as we go along in this program. In all sports, but also the Grove City Slippery Rock rivalry is certainly one of the best rivalries, not only in our area, but I would say District 10, proximity, similar demographics. The schools are in the same league, same classification in just about every sport, and the teams met in football season in in mid-September at Slippery Rock. It was the second league game for both teams. It was at Slippery Rock, Grove City coming in as a favorite. Slippery Rock jumped on top, 14-0 right out of the chute. 4 minutes into the game, up 14-0, led 20-7 at the half. And then Grove City came out like gangbusters. Gavin Purdy scoring 3 touchdowns in the second half. Eagles rally for a 33-20 victory. And it was really just a fun game between two rival schools, two programs that have met in district title games in recent years, and have played some really big regular season games as well. And this one certainly was a lot of fun. Slippery Rock getting off to the great start, and you're thinking in the back of your mind, hey, are we looking at an upset? And then Grove City, which seemed to find its way into a lot of tight games throughout the regular season, ended up rallying and getting the victory and heading back up Route 173 with an important region victory. So that's the first one that makes tonight's list. Second one, we're going to be to the end of the regular season in football, and admittedly, last year's football season was a good season. There were some good games. Again, there were some games that were outstanding that I didn't broadcast, and that's how it goes sometimes. Sometimes you get the great game, and sometimes you get the game that's not as compelling. But Week 10 was a non-league game, inter-district game, in fact, but two teams, two very proud programs, Wilmington and Karns City. And this one had a special personal meaning. It's kind of funny thinking, I've covered Mercer County teams for 25-plus years, a lot of connections here. Karns City, in a lot of ways, for me, is like a Mercer County team from that standpoint. I knew as many of the guys on the football coaching staff at Karns City as I do on any of our local staffs. The starting quarterback for Karns City, Cole Johnston, I know his mom, his dad, his aunt, his grandparents. The athletic director, Chris Bellis, he's a very good friend of mine. Start adding all these things in, then of course at Wilmington, with knowing so many people over there as well. Brandon Fillion, head coach, has been a broadcast partner of mine over the years in basketball season. We've done a couple football games as well. And you do a football game with him, you can see why his teams are winning 7, 8, 9, 10 games a year. The man knows football, knows how to communicate football knowledge. But just the affinity for Wilmington. Love doing games at Wilmington High School as well. And it was a fabulous game. Again, Karns City's 2A, Wilmington 1A, so it was not the old, quote, playoff preview, if you will. But, again, two schools have a lot of similarities, proud traditions, similar demographics, and great football. Terrific football game. One of the most enjoyable high school football games regular season that I'd gotten to cover in a number of years. And who would have thought a Week 10 non-conference game? But both teams played like it was a playoff game, and it propelled them both to district championship games. And eventually, that Karns City team won District 9, made the state playoffs, and really gave Farrell a real run for its money for 3 quarters in the first round of the state playoffs in 2A until Farrell pulled away on its way to a state runner-up. But that game. Week 10 regular season, just really enjoyed it because of the, I guess, personal stake I had in it. That normally an out-of-town team, if you will, you see names in the roster and you look at the numbers out there, and they're names and numbers. But in this case, it was it felt a lot like doing a local team. And Karns City, they certainly play like a lot of our local teams, and like a lot of our local teams, they're always playing well into November. So that wraps up regular season football. Number 3 on the list, we stay with football. District 10 championship game, Class 1A. It was a Saturday night, November 15th at Hickory High School, Greenville and Wilmington. Rematch of 2024 title game. Rematch from Week 1. Wilmington won against Greenville twice in 24, and then won the opener at Greenville in the regular season. And a lot of people, and rightfully so, had Wilmington pegged as the favorite. Not an overwhelming favorite, but, it was, Greenville certainly was the underdog coming in. Terrific, hard-hitting Mercer County-style football game. And then we had the unusual element of a lightning delay in November. Thunderstorms rolled in fourth quarter of the game. It wasn't a case where it was even first quarter. And again, this is mid-November. This isn't week 1 or week 2 or Labor Day weekend where sometimes it's 85 at 6 o'clock and then the temperature drops to 63 by the time you're walking out to the parking lot. This was mid-November, so to have a weather delay like that was very unusual. Greenville, the big completion to Hunter Cox on 4th down to keep a touchdown drive alive, or a potential touchdown drive alive. Trojans punch it in, take the lead, and get the victory 25-22. First district title for Greenville since 1999. Again, Greenville, what a great tradition they have there. And so many near misses over the last decade plus for the Trojans. To see Greenville back on top, certainly a real feather in Greenville's cap. And Wilmington, great run for that senior class, coming up just short in just what was a fabulous high school football game that night at Hickory High School in the 1A title game. Of course, then Greenville pulling off, really, we talk about the win over Wilmington was an upset. A lot of people didn't give them much chance the next week against Port Allegheny, defending state runners-up in the state quarterfinals up at Corey. Greenville, big defensive stand, goal line stand to win that one and go to the state semifinals for the first time since the mid-'90s. So a great season for Greenville, and that district title, a big part of that for the Trojans as they avenged the previous year's loss and also an earlier regular season loss to Wilmington. So that kind of puts a bow on football season. Again, there were a lot of really good games. For example, Farrell going to a state championship game. I was in the studio that day, but I wasn't there at Cumberland Valley. That was Mark Slazak and Bob Greenberg, so therefore it's not on the list. And unfortunately, Farrell came up on the short end against Southern Columbia, but a great run for the Steelers as well. But again, the criteria, that's the specific criteria. As we get into basketball and stuff too, and I'll kind of preface it here, like, the Kennedy girls, the Wilmington girls, outstanding teams. They're not on the list just because of when they played each other. I was elsewhere. And the games that I did have with them, well, they turned out to maybe be not as compelling as some of the others on the list. That's just how it goes. There's a limited number of spots, and does not diminish my opinion or anything like that of them. But just you have, as I say, it takes two to tango, and need to have all the elements present to fit in here. So starting with basketball, and again, we had a lot of heart stoppers in January and February. And starting off mid-January, January 15th, Grove City boys home to Sharon. And if you're not familiar, Grove City and Sharon, every time they've been in the same league and same classification in boys basketball for just about every 2-year cycle since the early 80s when Sharon came back to District 10 from District 7. What was the Mercer County League, the Mercer County Athletic Conference, or then now in region play. For the most part, they've been in the same classification, or even in some years where they were different classes, they still played multiple times. And no matter the records, no matter who the teams are, experienced, inexperienced, the coaches, whatever, Grove City and Sharon always put on a show. There are going to be wild finishes, big shots, unsung heroes, some wacky stuff, and this game certainly had it all. Grove City down 15 going to the fourth quarter at home, 53-38. This was a Thursday night game, by the way, a rare Thursday night boys game, which the second part of that comes into play here in a few moments, then freed me up to do another game that's on the list the next night. But Grove City rallies, outscores Sharon 25-6 in the fourth quarter to get the victory, 63-59 to go to 2-0 in the league. Both teams had come in at 1-0 in conference play. Ben Fisher, 20 points. Max Naus scored 16 of his 19 in the second half. Big comeback for Grove City. Again, the Grove City-Sharon boys games, I think back to as a kid listening on the radio in the 80s and 90s, or then starting to cover the games, whether it's in the playoffs, regular season. It doesn't matter what gym they play in. They could play at a playground in Greenville or something, and they would have a heck of a basketball game. But just another great chapter in one of the great basketball rivalries. A rivalry and a series that is probably a little bit overshadowed locally just because of Sharon-Hickory, Sharon-Farrell, Grove City, Slippery Rock, but boy, Grove City and Sharon, just in terms of sheer entertainment value, it's been hard to top those schools in boys basketball for the last 35, 40 years. As we mentioned, that was a Thursday night game, which meant Friday night had a chance to do another game and another great rivalry, Farrell and Hickory. And these next three games are all going to be lumped into one three-prong line, if you will. Again, we had 10. It's a top 10 list, but there's more than 10. And it's my list. I reserve the right to do what I want. But in a lot of ways, these three are all related because it involves they all involve Hickory, and they all involve fantastic buzzer-beating finishes. The first one of these was at historic E.J. McCluskey Gymnasium. So many great games there over the years. Hickory and Farrell playing. Comes down. Farrell's up 1 at the half. Hickory's up 1 going to the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter is tight. It's tied 46. Hickory runs the old Valparaiso play for the 1998 NCAA tournament. Trevor Borowitz finds Noah Kovac at the top of the key. He kicks it to Ashton Bull. He shoots a 3, makes the 3 at the buzzer. Hickory wins 49-46. If we'd had a play of the year in basketball like we did in football, that certainly would have been a finalist, but it was just pinpoint execution. Again, Farrell and Hickory, two very good teams last year, two outstanding traditions. They haven't necessarily played as much, as Farrell was in District 7 for so many years, but still over the last 2 decades, Farrell and Hickory, a lot of memorable moments. We'll get back to that, as that certainly will come up on here as well in this series, but Hickory winning that one. Of course, in league play, you play everybody twice, and that's what happened as Hickory then got to host Farrell on February 3rd in Hermitage. And this time it was Farrell getting the win, 67-66. Again, Hickory, chance to win it at the end, but Curtis Newby, freshman, 6'5", came in, blocked the shot at the buzzer, preserving a win for Farrell. A Farrell team that really needed every win coming down the stretch to get into the playoffs, which the Steelers did. And that was perhaps a season saver. And just, again, another terrific boys basketball game in that region, which we had seemingly every Tuesday and Friday night, no matter the combination of teams. And what a great game, great series between those two. Ultimately, Hickory winning at Farrell, Farrell winning at Hickory. That tells you a lot about the league. And then the regular season finale on Friday the 13th, February 13th. If you're superstitious or believe in those things, full moons, Friday the 13th, you expect crazy things. And boy, did we have crazy things, certainly. Grove City at Hickory. Hickory had won the first meeting at Grove City by 5 in really a foul-plagued game. A game that was memorable, but not necessarily memorable for all the good reasons, because it was there were so many fouls and so many free throws. It was it didn't squeeze into this list. We'll just leave it at that. But this one did. Grove City up late, and Kyler Slevin, the outstanding sophomore sharpshooter, hits a 3 to send the game into overtime, and then in overtime, 63 all. Hickory, the last possession. Ashton Bull drives in, kicks it out. Slevin, 3 at the buzzer, hits it. Students storm the court. Hickory wins the finale. Hickory ends up jumping Grove City in the league standings. They had the head-to-head tiebreaker, getting a better playoff seed, which really put Hickory on course for a nice postseason run. Put Grove City behind the 8-ball postseason-wise. But a classic, again, what better way to conclude the regular season in that league than with a finish like that? Now, if you're a Grove City fan, that was a very bitter one to take. But it was as a commentator, as a fan, because I am a fan. Wow, that's all I can say. So that was a great way to wrap up the regular season in basketball. Now you get into the playoffs, and again, this is going to be one item with a double attachment. The Slippery Rock girls, they were in the state playoffs in 2024-25, but they'd kind of had stumbled down the stretch in the postseason and ended up then lost in the first round of the state playoffs after really two tough losses. This year, in the quarterfinals, they played Oil City. And, kind of had to hang on, scramble, and hold on at the end to win by 2, 38-36. But as they say in the postseason play, it's survive and advance. And it was a very, I thought, great illustration. The head coach, Jeff Steele, who was, who really, he knows basketball, knows sports. He also understands kind of how, flows and things like that. He pointed out to Chris Birch and me, and it was a very salient point, that if you look at teams that when you watch the Big Dance or whether it's high school, teams that make long runs, get to the Final Four in the NCAA tournament, or you make a long run in the PIAA playoffs, a lot of times there's a game early on in the playoffs that is just an escape. If you go back, if you ever watched the documentary on the 1982-83 North Carolina State men's basketball team, they had a couple of those where they could have been out a number of times. And for Slippery Rock, this was certainly that game. But they held on, advanced, and got to go to the semifinals and play Fairview, the top seed. Fairview, very, very good program. Teams met at Meadville. Of course, the previous season, Slippery Rock lost to Harbor Creek at Meadville in the semifinals, had a big lead early, and it got away from them. But this year, Slippery Rock able to pull out the victory, knocking off the top seed. Just a really gritty, gutsy effort by Slippery Rock. When you watch their young players, their development, how they grew, even from February 1st through the end of the month there in the playoffs, the growth they made. Of course, Madison Romanovich, who her stats are just off the charts. I mean, you have to get a second pen to write down everything that she accomplished. Just what that team did, their development, their growth down the stretch to defeat a very, very good Fairview team in the state playoffs and get to the district title game and back to Meadville and back against Harbor Creek. Now, unfortunately for Slippery Rock, again, a tight game for 32 minutes, ends up Harbor Creek pulls it out at the end. Slippery Rock ends up as the runner-up. But the reason that it made this list, it was an excellent high school basketball game. Somebody had to win. Somebody had to not win. Unfortunately, the local team didn't win, but it was a terrific basketball game. It was a joy to call. Had to be a joy to watch. If you didn't have an investment in either of the teams, if you had a daughter, a niece, a granddaughter, a friend, a girlfriend, whatever, playing in the game, then you probably had no fingernails left at the end of that one. But it was just a terrific demonstration of girls basketball. And then for Slippery Rock, ultimately, they win a state playoff game over Elizabeth Forward, a very good team from District 7, before falling to an outstanding Oakland Catholic team in the round of 16. But that postseason run for Slippery Rock, specifically the semifinals and finals, really notable, very impressive, and something that really stood out to me here in 2025-2026. The last basketball game that we have on the list, which will be the 7th event overall, was the Hickory boys again. They made it out of the district playoffs, of course, in Class 4A, District 10 getting 5 teams. A borderline absurd number, but that's the way the math works. Sometimes the math works for you, sometimes it works against you. And Hickory making out as the number 3 team. And generally, since the days of antiquity, if you're number 3 out of District 10 in that classification, the old AAA, or now 4A, those size schools, it's a tough road to hoe. And it certainly was a tough challenge for Hickory, having to go on the road and play Quaker Valley, the District 7 runners-up, an outstanding program, an outstanding head coach in Mike Mastroianni, over 800 wins. Hickory went down there. Chris Birch and I called the game. Neat old gym. It was an old barn. Quaker Valley, at one time was a much smaller school. So it was a big school and a small gym, really great environment, 2 great teams. Hickory off to a great start. Their size inside, Borowitz and Kovac, really gave Quaker Valley problems. Quaker Valley kept firing back, making runs at Hickory. Ultimately, Hickory able to pull out the victory on the road over an outstanding team in its home gym in the state playoffs. It was really just a terrific basketball game. Again, much like that Harbor Creek Slippery Rock girls game, if you didn't have an investment in either team, if you didn't have a rooting interest, I mean, you were just thoroughly entertained. And us, certainly calling Hickory the local team, great to see them come out on top, and certainly made for a very nice ride back to Mercer County. Now, the last three on here are all softball, and they're all going to involve the Sharon softball team. They were a team that we covered quite a bit, and rightfully so. We'll start off with the District 10 championship game. We go back to that Sharon-Hickory rivalry. They had played two very good games in the regular season. Mark and Bob had called the first one. Sharon swept the regular season games 2-0 and 3-0. The teams met at Allegheny College up in Meadville. A little bit of a different choice for the site, but that's based on what was available. But again, the rubber was at 43 feet. The bases were 60 feet. Allegheny has a great facility, and it was a great game. The pitchers, Matty Vogan for Sharon, A.J. Jarzab for Hickory, they were matching 0 for 0. Ultimately, Sharon gets an unearned run, wins the game 1-0, and again, a great demonstration of high school sports. Two teams that not much separating them, but Sharon able to find the way to win all three. But just great sportsmanship, great respect between the programs. It was a joy to witness. It was a joy to call, and it was unfortunate that one of our local teams had to come out with the silver medal, so to speak. But Sharon winning the District 10 championship and advancing into the state playoffs. Tigers win a couple of state games, and then they get to the state semifinals, playing South Park at Slippery Rock University. South Park was a team that edged Hickory in the first round of the playoffs 2-1. So you knew right from that alone, okay, this is, again, comparative scores don't necessarily tell you everything, but you had a pretty good idea that this was going to be an outstanding game. And boy, it was a great pitcher's duel. Seckley for South Park, Vogan for Sharon, combined over 30 strikeouts. Goes to the bottom of the ninth. Marley Bundrant with the double, gets the third, scores, he's on second, goes to third on a bunt, and then unfortunately, a throw that got away allowed her to score. Sharon wins 1-0 and going to the state championship game. But again, the Sharon softball team, it was something that Bob Greenberg and I noted about. It's been a long time since a local team had just about everybody rooting for them and supporting them and behind them. And again, when teams make runs, the area, if you ever say, the preponderance of the people, the majority of the people get behind them, but there's always somebody out there, well, I don't want school X to win this or that or whatever. But you didn't get any of that with Sharon. And just the outpouring of support, you see, the social media posts, which, as we know, sometimes aren't always good. These ones, great job, Sharon. Congratulations, all of that. It was heartwarming to see. It was in times where you don't see a lot of that. To see that, it was really cool. And then the last one is the last broadcast we had this year, state championship game. Sharon taking on the defending state champions Pine Grove. Unfortunately, Pine Grove winning the game. Sharon got behind early. A couple of errors didn't help. But Pine Grove's an outstanding team. 8 starters back from a state championship squad. That's a pretty good recipe for success. Sharon, a great season, making it to Penn State. And for me, it was memorable. You get to call a state championship game. I've been doing, again, as I said, calling games. The first game I called for WPIC was in 1998, but really regularly for about 2 decades. This is the 4th state championship game that I was afforded the opportunity to call. So obviously it's something that doesn't happen often, and something I certainly cherish and very thankful that Sharon made it and got me to a state championship game. But to be able to call a game on the big stage at Penn State, a school that is kind of, who do you root for, if you will, in terms of the big-time colleges. Grew up a Penn State fan, so you had to go to Penn State and see Beaver Stadium. To razz Bob Greenberg, a big Pitt fan, a little bit about that. Good-naturedly, that was enjoyable. But just to get to go and call a state championship game is something that I don't take lightly at all. And it was a great season for Sharon. And ended up as the runner-up to an outstanding Pine Grove team. But there was no shame there, and a fabulous season for Sharon, representing our area, District 10 and Western Pennsylvania, very, very well. So that's a look back at the 10 things that I've found to be, memorable, most memorable this year. Looking at a few other things here. These are kind of more of news and notes type things. Again, a lot of these have been touched on already. Some of it has maybe gotten more attention than others, but boys basketball-wise in the area, there were 3 openings, head coaching-wise, and now 2. Grove City and Slippery Rock still open after the recent resignations of Chris Qualick at Grove City, A.J. Mott at Slippery Rock. I was, disappointed. They're sad, because I really like both of those guys, and both did a great job at their respective schools, and we'll miss getting to work with them, interact with them. Also at West Middlesex, previously Tyler Babcock had stepped down after 5 years, but he's been replaced by a fellow West Middlesex graduate, Jake Buzzard. Of course, I think back to when I was, a young guy starting out. Jake Buzzard, a terrific multi-sport athlete at West Middlesex in the early 2000s. There are certain things, again, we talk about things being memorable, for good or for bad or for whatever. The first football game that I covered locally after the 9/11 attacks, which would be now 25 years ago. So this would have been September 15th, a Saturday night. All the Friday night games were postponed to Saturday night. Covered West Middlesex hosting Lakeview, which was a non-conference game at the time. They were both Class A. Lakeview was in the FCVC, and Middlesex was in the MCAC. And Jake Buzzard was the starting quarterback that night for West Middlesex. And, of course, covered him in basketball as well. Joe Klimchak and I, we covered a lot of those West Middlesex games back through then. Guys, of course, with Jake and Bobby Michaels and Paul Fair and many other guys, too. I know I'm missing some names, but we covered them a lot those years. Joe doing play-by-play and me being the color guy was certainly a lot of fun. And, Jake's been an assistant at the junior high and varsity levels over the past handful of years and now taking over at his alma mater. So look forward to seeing what he can do. If I'd been thinking, I would have made a graphic that said something like the buzzard flies home or something, but I didn't. But maybe next time we'll be a little bit more on the ball with that. I'm just thankful that the stream is steadied after a little bit of a wonky start. But again, we're going to do addition and subtraction here before we start doing calculus and trigonometry. But so we noted then the openings at Grove City and Slippery Rock. Again, not exactly sure where they are in the process there. You hear some things. I believe Slippery Rock is doing some interviewing. Not sure with Grove City with the AD transition there as well. I want to wish the best to my friend Casey Young, who was the athletic director at Grove City for, about the better part of 2 decades almost now. Grove City in a budget crisis made the decision to eliminate the full-time athletic director position, which certainly not received well in a lot of parts of the community. As an alum and as a taxpayer, I certainly was not thrilled about it, and also part of the fact that Casey Young's become a very good friend over the years. But Casey's been hired at Neshannock in a full-time role, and I know he's going to do a great job there, and he'll be a tremendous asset to that great athletic program they have in Lawrence County and the Lawrence County area at large. But so want to wish him the best, and also Grove City has hired Rob Haggart, who another guy that I've known for a long time. He's a Grove City guy as well. It's a very typical Grove City type of thing. His sister-in-law was in my graduating class, and then his youngest sister-in-law was in my younger sister's graduating class, and, of course, covered his daughter and son. I mean, all those things. His sister was a year ahead of me, or a couple years ahead of me in high school. So one of those things, we've met. But glad that Rob will be taking over in that role, and wish him the best as he does that, also balancing teaching courses at Grove City High School. So that, and then locally as well, a co-op, kind of an expanded co-op up in the northwest part of the county, Reynolds and Jamestown. Both of their school boards have okayed it, and again, both of those schools, like many of our schools, have dealt with enrollment crunches. Of course, Jamestown's a small school to begin with, very small, in fact. It has been one of our smallest schools for a long, long time, and Reynolds certainly has, in terms of enrollment, has shrunk as well over the last quarter century or thereabouts. I think back to in the early 90s, Reynolds was playing AAA in football in the 4-class system, and now down in 1A in football. Just that's, like many communities in Western PA, there aren't as many people and there aren't as many young people around. But anyway, both of those schools entering into a co-op in 7 total sports. So at Jamestown will be the host school for boys golf and softball, and then Reynolds will be the host for girls golf, for junior high and varsity girls basketball, and then for baseball. And again, those are schools that have had problems with numbers in sports. I know both teams' girls basketball rosters have been pretty small the last few years, so this will help strengthen numbers. And I think this is not the last of these. I believe this is kind of the tip of the spear, if you will, in terms of co-ops. We're going to see. We've already have seen some. I think we're going to see more in the coming years as things go on. And the biggest reason is there just are not as many young men and women enrolled in the schools. Schools that a quarter century ago were graduating 110 are now graduating 75. Schools that were graduating 85 are graduating 55. Very few have had stable or steady enrollments. Our locally larger schools, Hickory, Sharon, Grove City, Slippery Rock, for the most part have. But nobody is bursting at the seams and having to add a new wing to the school or add lockers or anything like that, unfortunately. But that's how it is, and it's a trend that's probably not going to change. And when you have fewer students available, but same number of activities, whether it's in the sporting realm, the performing arts, any extracurricular, you're just not going to have as many. And they'll say the numbers are down. Well, yes, they're down because the overall pool is down. Participation rate, if you have 50% involved and so forth, I would guess that the rates are probably still fairly similar. Again, I don't have the hard data in front, but it's hard for schools when you have fewer students and still want to be able to offer the same amount of programming. So these co-ops, if somebody wants to be able to play girls basketball, baseball, okay, now they can go and do that and be on a team, say a baseball team that'll have, say, 18 to 20 boys or even 15 boys, as opposed to both teams hopefully nobody rolls an ankle. We're just going to have 9 guys and hope our pitcher can get through 5 innings. And it's hard to be competitive. It's hard to keep the morale up. So situation like this, I think it's going to be mutually beneficial for those programs. And again, I think we're going to see more of it as time goes on. Of course, you always hear about the school consolidation and so forth, and that's another topic for another day. Maybe it makes sense in some cases, but there are also sometimes you run into some geographical situations where it just is would be totally unfeasible or would be less efficient to do that. But again, that's another topic for another day. Well, I hope that everybody's enjoyed this. We've gone for, about 43, 44 minutes right now. I think that's long enough for tonight. Again, this is something that perhaps we'll look at doing regularly, semi-regularly, perhaps maybe in football season. Maybe we'll do previews this way instead of in a written format. Let me know your thoughts. You can post on the Facebook page. You can post on YouTube. You can email me. What are your thoughts of that? Would you prefer, number one, did you like this? Or do you think there's something here? Maybe you didn't like this, but you think, okay, maybe there's something we can do with it. Or if you think it stinks, well, say it stinks. I'm a big boy. But if you think that maybe something like this, or we can incorporate maybe some video clips and so forth as we go along. Again, thinking about as we get into fall. Again, fall's still a ways off. I want to enjoy summer, and everybody enjoys summer, including this heat that's upcoming. But again, maybe this would be something like this, a 30-minute video, or 20 minutes, or 45, whatever the length is. Maybe that's of more interest to people than going through and reading what would be 6 printed out pages, single spaced. I don't know. Again, my background is writing, is on the audio side, but the world's changing, and hopefully tonight we've taken a step towards maybe becoming a little bit more video savvy, if you will. But again, I want to thank everybody if you tuned in tonight at all, whether it was live or you go back and watch it. NWPA Sports on YouTube, if you want to subscribe, that would be great. You'll be able to get updates. You can go back, and of course, there's a pretty good catalog now of games that have been broadcast over the last 2+ years. A lot of video, some audio as well. I'm hoping to maybe add some old stuff as well, if that's doable. One of the things that people have asked a lot over the years is, hey, can we go back and listen to the game? Or go back and now watch the game? And yes, you can. With Facebook, we do the video, but those are taken out after 30 days. YouTube, they are up for as long as we leave them up there. And you can go there and watch, or in the cases of the audio-only games, you can listen to them there, and certainly encourage you to do so. Maybe you have a road trip this summer. Maybe at your school, your team, maybe a game you played in or watched, your team won. You want to go back and listen to it, and help fill 2 hours of a road trip across the state or across the country, going to the beach. Certainly would be a great way to do that. But again, this is Ryan Briggs, Professor Briggs, if you will. ProfessorBriggs.com is the website. You can also get there with nwpasports.com. That's a redirect. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the feedback. Thanks for the support. We'll talk to you next time. Have a great night. Stay cool. A safe Independence Day holiday.